phone, which I dropped very impressively on the floor, still seems to be turning on, so that's a good start, isn't it? Come on over. Lillian's just making sure everything's really, really nice for communion. There we go.
Sorry, that was just correcting something I hadn't noticed, and I did it before, so my bad, and I apologize.
Fabulous. So I'm stepping seamlessly from service leader into panel host, if you hadn't noticed. That's what the chair's for. So we are going to be kicking off. Hopefully you're going to be hearing mostly Roddy and Lillian's voice in this conversation. Last week, Nath Palmer kicked us off looking at this idea about what it means to be a caring community together, and this idea that we have around pastoral care in our context being about holistic care that's practical, emotional and spiritual, and how those things are all intrinsically connected. And that we want to create a community where no one is missed. But we know that in order to do that, it needs to be a whole community effort, that we all need to play our part in creating space where everyone feels cared for and where everyone is seen. And we know that we don't always get that right. We haven't always nailed it, but we are trying and learning and growing. And we just thought we'd hear a bit from Lillian and from Roddy today, thinking about how we can work in our own contexts, in our own lives, with our own skills to kind of really care for one another. So there is a link on the screen. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask, I will endeavour to keep an eye on the Slido there. But I'll kick off with a few that we've had from earlier in the week. So could you start off just by introducing yourselves a little bit?
Hi, I'm Roddy. I've been part of Oasis for a long time, like 12 years, something like that. My background is I grew up in Northern Ireland on a farm, going to a very staunch conservative Presbyterian church, the kind of place that by the time you're 16 you should be wearing a suit. I once turned up to church in shorts and thought I'd murdered someone. But growing up in a place where there was lots of pastoral care, it was like a lovely community, but also there was lots of struggles going on there as well, and my own struggles with figuring out my faith and sexuality in that context was interesting at times. I went to uni in Glasgow, went to an Episcopalian church. I look back at it cringy in some ways, but did lots of mission trips as a teenager, and went to bring Jesus to the masses. But actually there was something really wonderful about going and meeting different cultures and different kind of ways of experiencing faith. And that's kind of meant that my journey's been kind of a patchwork of lots of different influences. And it's like everybody, we're all different, and we all have different experiences and different ideas and beliefs. But that's what makes it really rich.
And I'm Lillian, and I grew up in Denmark in the Lutheran church, so also a very conservative kind of church. Faith journey was also just very much about this being told what you had to believe. And pastoral care in Danish, the term used in Danish, I was just thinking about that this morning, is called soul helpers, which it sort of indicates it's about your soul salvation, doesn't it? It's about faith things. So I was just thinking about that as I was thinking about today, that actually what we're welcoming is the whole person, isn't it? That's one of the things I really loved about coming to Oasis, that I could be my whole story, the broken home I grew up with, the confused about whether God is actually real when my own home fell apart, which had been the thing I had always said, that the last thing I wanted was for my children to have to deal with parents that were divorced. And yeah, that was just really tricky at the time. But that whole thing of Oasis being, we are welcome with all that we are. And I love that. To me, that's what helped me feel at home here. And as Rebecca said, we don't get it right all the time. And maybe one of the things I've thought a lot about in the week, thinking about this, is that nobody can mind read. And I know I am really guilty sometimes of not, and I think I have worked a lot on it while I've been here. I've become much more open about where I'm at, but I know that I'm still not good at it, and I have to be braver at being vulnerable and say when there's something I need, because nobody can read minds. So we can't guess what somebody needs, and I'm guessing that's a little bit what's good for us to think about here today.
Fabulous, thank you. I was wondering if you could share any examples that you have of where you have experienced good care and what that looked like and felt like for you in your own journeys or in your own experience, and maybe a bit about how, your own experience has led you to a place of kind of understanding around this.
So the time, there's one time that really popped into my mind is when I was going to church in Glasgow. So I was in my early 20s, trying to figure out where my faith and my sexuality met and how they could work together. And there was a point in time in church where I thought, actually, I've given you like 20-something years of my life, and I can't fit these together, so I'm going to sack it all in, and I'm not doing church, I'm not doing God, and just kind of went into the world. And it was really interesting what you were saying about, in Danish, about pastoral care was soul care. I had lots of people in who were connected to the church trying to look after my soul and trying to bring me back into the fold and trying to tell me what was good for my soul and my spiritual life. The time that really, really stands out was my friend Jodie, who met me in the park, in Kelvin Grove Park, and there was like this, it's not necessary, but it sticks in my head, it's the imagery. It was like an old mill, and there's like foundations, and we climbed on top of the foundations, and we just sat there and had a chat. I don't remember if we prayed, I don't remember if we talked about Jesus or the Bible, but what I really remember was I felt heard and I felt seen, and she was there because she cared about me. She wasn't trying to influence me, she wasn't trying to tell me what to do. She just wanted to be there beside me, and allow herself to be vulnerable with me and for me to be vulnerable with her. And that's the time that really sticks in my mind of that. I can't remember what we talked about, but it was just that I was being held and she was standing beside me. And I think that for me, that's what pastoral care is, and what it means is just standing beside, not fixing or coming with an agenda, but just being there and supporting.
I think that the best offer of support I've had, that I can think, when I got divorced, and that meant losing my role as a pastor in a church, losing my job, and losing my family home. So everything was a little bit like the rug being pulled away from under my feet. And people were very good at saying, oh, let me know how I can help. But I literally had no clue. I literally just thought, well, how do I know? I didn't know what to do. The best support at that time, and I have tried to use it sometimes myself since, was a lady, beautiful, lovely Catholic lady who had worked for me when I managed Sure Start, and she said, can I take you for coffee? And we can talk about it if you want, or we can just laugh and talk about the weather. Or we can talk about old times or whatever, but that thing of being offered something that was concrete and where we could talk about it if I wanted and felt like it at the time or not, that's probably the best kind of pastoral care that I think I have received.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful, isn't it? Because in both examples, it kind of shows the importance of that kind of presence and of really sort of listening. There's lots of questions coming in, which is why I was momentarily looking over here at my phone. Do you have any advice for when, if we think that there's somebody who needs our help and support, but they don't seem to want it? And how can we support people whilst also respecting their choices?
I think that's a very good question. I don't think we can ever I think we can offer it, or we can suggest that the person, we can offer space ourselves, or we can say, or is there somebody else that you trust that you think who would be really helpful too, because it sounds like it's something that may be good to talk about. But you can't force people to work on things, can you? People have got to want to take that space, but some of it comes a little bit back to the whole thing of actually daring to speak out and say, I need help. So sometimes that's the struggle, isn't it? Do we dare to be open and vulnerable enough for people to know, I need help? Or do we shy away and actually stay away from fellowship when it's hard? I know I've been here some Sundays where the tears have been pouring down my face the whole way through, and I've just thought, it's okay, because actually we are whole beings. It's okay that you're able to see that I'm struggling right now. That didn't answer. You answered it.
It did answer it. And I was thinking, kind of following on from that, was thinking just noticing and asking if people want support. It's absolutely fine, and we're all humans and we have our boundaries. My boundaries are going to be different to your boundaries, and that we want to respect and honour those. But it's also okay to say, oh, I've noticed you've been like upset recently, or this thing's gone on. I'm here if you want help. I'm here if you want to chat. But I think it's just like, if you think about it in a friendship, if it was your best friend, what would you do? You'd probably say it, mention it, bring it into the room and say, oh, that thing's happened. Do you need anything from me? Do you want anything from me? It's okay if that's a no. Don't stop being their friend. And just continue to hang out as usual and let that come up again if it needs to.
And I think we do have the orange landlord, I can't even say that right now, the Danish in me is coming out. And we do have a pastoral cluster. And if somebody is struggling and you think that they may need help, that's also okay to say that you know that there is a pastoral team here. Are there any of them that you feel like you could go to and talk to?
Yeah, so there's a few questions here kind of around a few practical things, and that's a good segue in, Lillian. So like, how do we make people aware of what support is on offer, and particularly thinking again about the idea of we're a church where lots of people maybe aren't here locally here all the time, so kind of what support is on offer. And I guess we've been thinking about this in the context that everyone has a role to play in building that sense of care and community together, but also we do have the pastoral cluster, so kind of what is that support offer, what does that look like, and how can people get in touch? Someone's asked if there's a phone number or an email or anything.
I don't know if there's a phone number. You can email welcome.
You can email
pastoral. Sorry, I should know that, shouldn't I?
Pastoral at oasiswaterloo.org if you ever do want to email anything.
Or find anybody with an orange lanyard. In terms of what's on offer, it's kind of just, again, like those examples of being standing beside you and supporting you, listening to what's going on. We're no more special than anybody else. We don't have any answers, but we can stand there and listen and kind of work through something. What we're hopefully the pastoral team are good at doing is listening, offering you prayer if you want to pray together, practical stuff. So linking you into practical support. So that might be if you're going through an illness or new families, like Louise is very, very good at organising food rotas, and that's like a small practical thing that's a really, really amazing, that can make life so much easier for someone. And then checking in. We do meet together regularly as a pastoral team, so if there are things, if we chat to you, we might say, do you mind if I take that to the pastoral team and ask for their advice, or do you want them to pray for you as well? So that we can help you in the fullest way. And also linking you into groups, so if you are outside of London, it might be trying to link, if somebody wants it, linking into a local small group or people in that area, or upcoming like Lent suppers, to connect to people who are local to you as well.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking that very often it's the connection that's really important for us. So I think getting connected in somewhere, whether it's, I know that my small group usually will verbalize that they really feel like they get a lot of their support from the small group. And I think that's really important. So if you're not part of a small group, would like to, just like you just said, and that could be climbing walls with Ruddy, or it could be cycling and being part of that team, or dropping a mobile. But actually any kind of way of just getting involved in where you get to know some people a little bit more, because otherwise you can keep coming to church for a very, very long time and actually still not know anybody. And the hi, how are you, and how was your week, sometimes is very superficial. I don't know if you sometimes walk out of here and you feel like, I've talked to people and I'm not really connected. And that, nobody can do that for us. We have to make that decision of going a little bit deeper. How are you really? Or what was your highlight and what was your low light?
And back to what you were saying earlier about being vulnerable, so bringing yourself and being open to bring you and what's going on in your life to the people around you, so that you can develop those deeper relationships.
And the email, the pastoral at oasiswaterloo.org, we'll just say it once more, but also can be used to say, please pray for me. I have a job interview, or I'm finding life really hard at the moment. That often is actually what we will do. We meet about once a month. And just so you know, one of the first decisions when we started doing this was to say, this is not a gossip club about what's going on in other people's lives. So we're very careful about what we share. And I know I often ask people permission, is it okay that I take this to the pastoral group, so that people know about it? But that whole thing of it's literally to help, and people who would like extra prayer and support, it is there. So there's a group of us that can help think with you. Nobody can fix something in somebody else, but we can help think together about what may help, what might be useful, feel useful at this time.
There's a question here around if there's a lot of need around us, and how we navigate the kind of boundary of offering support and pastoral care without burning out ourselves.
I was chatting about this with my husband Andrew last night, about burnout. My day-to-day work is in the NHS in sexual health and HIV, and my work is really emotional, psychological, so supporting people through a new HIV diagnosis, through mental health, sex, relationships, drugs, alcohol. So it takes a lot of emotional energy, and I know that after a day of work, you can feel really empty and your cup does not overfloweth. And so I think it's really, really important, whether it's in a work context or in like supporting people in our community, that we do all have boundaries. And only you know what your boundaries are. So looking after yourself and protecting yourself. So sometimes it might be like, I don't have time today. Can we have a chat next week? Or can you have a phone call? Can we have a phone call during the week? It might be also knowing, at what point is this more than I can give you and more than my competence or my understanding, and when sometimes actually I'm very happy to stand beside you, but I think maybe, have you thought about having some counselling or getting some more professional help that's going to be safer and better for you, but I can stand along beside you and check in with you, but I can't do that extra bit because it's unsafe for me and it's unsafe for you.
Yeah, I think just like we want to look after each other, we've got to also come from a basis of looking after ourselves. I also have a job that's emotionally very draining at times, but we've got to find ways of looking after ourselves so that we can help for each other. That's the put your mask on, put on yourself so you can help your child with their mask, isn't it?
I don't know if you've heard, probably lots of people have heard the analogy of people in life being like taps and sinks or taps and plugs, and some people fill us up when we're with some people that will fill us up and energize us and give us that support that we need, and some people in our lives can drain us, and we are all both at different times and with different people, so it's just making sure we've got that good balance as well. And if we notice actually there's a lot of stuff that's draining me, think about it, be aware and reflect, and think, oh, I actually need to check in with one of my taps because I need a bit of filling up right now.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting reflection that I also have a job that is a lot with people and with difficult circumstances and things, and I think there's something in the acknowledgement that we're all whole people and we can both be giving and receiving and needing something and giving something at the same time. Like, it doesn't have to be it's one or the other. Like, I can need something and be giving something simultaneously. Like, we don't have to compartmentalize ourselves so much, I think.
In an ideal world, then I'm guessing that we are a dynamic community that are here supporting each other. And at different times, we are the recipient and the giver of that. If we are really good, like an Acts 2 kind of community, where we really work on being there for each other and giving space. So it's not something that some people do over there, but it's something we do with each other. I say that out of the first pastor job that my ex-husband and I had together. The expectation of pastoral care was that you had to go and visit homes and drink coffee with them. You had to go and do home visits, and people then pay by attendance in church. That literally was seen as part of the pastoral job. Not what we're doing.
Yeah. You both have like briefly touched on kind of your own context outside of here. Obviously, like, everyone's in different contexts, and I think this idea of kind of pastoral care and those kind of things, not everyone maybe has those jobs which so intrinsically have those kind of caring roles built into them. But I wonder what it looks like, do you think, for us to all bring some of those ideas of kind of like care and community and what it means to kind of build each other up, whatever context we're in outside of a Sunday morning.
Maybe two things, 2 points, and I'll forget one while I talk about one.
Not a 3-point sermon, no.
I think one is for all of us, and it's a challenge for me, and I think probably for all of us, is to work on being better listeners, so that we are able to listen to people and be curious about what's going on in their lives. Not listen to respond, but listen to actually hear what they're saying. I think that's one of the things. It's so easy to listen to something and you're just waiting to respond instead of actually really hearing what they're saying. So I think that kind of listening is really important. You go, and then I'll try and remember what the other thing was.
Well, I'm going to give everybody a little bit of homework then on listening well and actively listening. Because I was thinking, while you were talking, I was thinking about what I was going to say. But maybe try with a friend or a family member, just have a conversation, and when they're talking, think about your next job is going to be, you're going to listen, and then you're going to paraphrase and reflect back what they've said. So it takes you away and out of that space of, oh, how can I relate that to me, or what can I say about that, or what solution can I bring? And it turns it into, I'm listening, and I'm really listening, and I'm going to then check in and tell you what you've said. Sounds a bit silly, but practice it, and it changes the dynamic of how we listen, because we're listening to really hear rather than listening so that we can then put our pennies worth in.
The question is about kind of, we're all in very different contexts through the week, and how can we kind of bring those principles and ideas about pastoral care into whatever context we're living in.
You know, I've been in several meetings in the last couple of weeks with social workers and in social workers that wanted to work with some of the women I have worked with, and they wanted to ask me how they could best work with that person to get good work with them, because the history hasn't been so great, but they knew I had worked well with them. And very interestingly, then kindness has come up several times. It's just one of the keys. Literally some of the basics is just that we learn and practice kindness in every interaction. And I suppose that comes a little bit with the listening, you know, that debate of that some people always want to fix some other people. And actually, I don't know about you, but I'm sure you're the same as me. Nobody wants to be fixed or be told what it is that's going on in their lives. All of us want to be heard and be known.
There's 3 things that I like to try and bring into day-to-day life. Sometimes I do it successfully, sometimes I don't. But so Carl Rogers, if you know him, he was like one of the founders of person-centered counselling, and he talks about well, there's 3 main core conditions that he talks about in counselling, and that's empathy, congruence, and positive regard. So that essentially means empathy is like listening and showing up and giving that emotional warmth to somebody. Congruence is you being there, being present, not being in thinking about what you're having for dinner. Sometimes that happens, we bring ourselves back. And just being you. Don't try to be something like, not me trying to be something I'm not, just being present and being myself. And then positive regard, it's just essentially not judging someone. And I think we can bring that into any situation, whether that's with our like spouse or our child, or with like a meeting at work, or maybe that very difficult person at work. And it can really help, and it's just those little things that can make that little difference. It's not about being necessarily the agony aunt or uncle in work, but just about giving people some space and some time.
Fabulous, thank you. Do you have anything you'd like to, final remarks? Top tip?
You know what? I'm always thinking of stuff like this, of course, but how easy it is for us to say to each other, oh, we must catch up at some time. Let's have a coffee at some time. Let's meet for. And some of you will know that I'm trying to practice it. Let's get something in the diary. Because otherwise, one day takes another. I met with some friends yesterday from the church I was part of. I haven't seen them for 10 years. And a couple of times over these, probably 2-3 times over those 10 years, we've had just tiny connections over text and just, oh, we must get together sometime. But of course, it doesn't happen. But actually pinning ourselves down and saying, so intention, really about making those connections and giving space for them, I suppose, is what I'm thinking.
I think for all of us, bringing ourselves into our community. So you might be a very practical person, so bring your practicalness to it. You might be a great listener. You might be a great hugger. Whatever it is that you have, bring you to it, and just support each other. We're all different. We're all not going to be able to meet everybody's needs. But I know some people that I will get a great hug from, and some people who don't like hugs. I'm not going to ask for one. But bring who you are, and I think just be yourself and be in that.
Fabulous, thank you. Thank you to both of you for sharing so honestly and kindly with us. You'll see I've seamlessly hopped off my chair and I'm now your service leader again. We are going to just spend a little bit of time together now. The microphone's on the floor again, hang on. We're going to spend a little bit of time together taking communion and just reflecting together as a community. If you haven't experienced communion here before, communion at Oasis is open to anyone who'd like to participate.